Hello everyone, Ron Trotto, TC Computer Consulting, Tech Tip Day 3. And today we're going to take a huge topic and we're going to put it a little bit of time. And that is, well, ransomware. If you haven't heard of it, you definitely haven't been watching the news because it's been all over the news for the last couple of years. And everyone's gotten hit, from the local municipalities to the government to the very large international shipping companies. There's so many companies that have been absolutely decimated by this. Not only the initial part, but then the fallout as well, which we're going to cover in another day. But today we're going to go through specifically encryption, because there are other types of ransomware, which we'll cover in other days. But today we're going to talk about file encryption and what goes on. So almost always, ransomware is triggered from a piece of software that is downloaded somehow through an attachment of an email or a web page, but mostly email. So this thing gets executed. It goes out and looks for all of the files that are most precious to a business owner's heart. So that's financials, that's the database, that's the line of business application, that is the Excel spreadsheets that they run everything by, that's the Word documents, and everything in the ecosystem. Except for the system files, because it doesn't need to encrypt those. Those aren't, you don't need those to restore or anything. They're just a matter of running the operating system. Some are even nice enough to encrypt everything for you, install a new operating system, sort of. It's not over, but in addition to, that brings up with instructions on how to decrypt and pay and everything, just to make it a little bit more difficult, as if it wasn't difficult enough. So once you have this happen to you, you've got really two options. You need to restore from backup, or you need to pay the bad guys. Now, restoration from backup is either local backup, hopefully, because if it didn't get local backup, then you're in luck, because it's pretty much a burp in your day. Not a huge impact other than a few hours lost of productivity of the company. If it has to go from cloud, this is where it gets a little dicey, especially if it hasn't been tested. Sure, your data might be intact, but it may be out of sync and you may lose some data. There's a lot of things that could go on with that. And unless it's actually tested and has a plan around it, it's likely that some pretty big burps, larger burps, will be encountered, which may end up in more outage. So let's go with the other option, Bitcoin. So that's what we're going to have to pay in, but it's paying the ransom guys. So what they're going to do is they're going to give you a message, either if they encrypt your whole drive or if they just encrypt your files. Usually in the desktop, there's a message. They're nice enough to self-launch it, and they'll pull up a browser that usually has the text file. It says, hey, you've been encrypted. Hey, you should have kept up on your patching. Hey, you should have better antivirus. Hey, you shouldn't have opened up the attachment. But in the meantime, I'm here to remind you and teach you the hard way. You need to give me X amount in Bitcoin by, usually there's a time factor, 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. Some of them increase the ransom as the time marches on. And this is wherein lies the problem. You can't just go out to a bank and get Bitcoin. You can't use your credit card. You can't go to the website. You can't do an ACH transfer. Why? Because the United States government has pretty strict laws against money laundering, and seeing that Bitcoin is an anonymous cyber cryptocurrency, yeah, it doesn't work for them, and no banks or credit cards want to be caught up in that. So you need to go through almost like an underground network to get your Bitcoins. If you're in a larger metropolis, it's probably going to be easier than if you're not. So typically, I would say if that ever happens to you, get involved with someone who's done it before, someone like us. We know who to go to safely and make the transactions happen. I honestly can't. 2 hours shower can't even wipe it off of me when we've had to deal with those situations in the past. But it is what it is, and we're happy to step in and help. That's where the complexity is. Now, once you've done that, you're going to transfer your Bitcoin that you've accumulated in your wallet, your account ID, to the bad guys. Their robots are sitting there watching for your account to come up at all times. Once they confirm that a few times, because they're bad guys, they don't trust anyone themselves, then you're going to go onto the dark web, or you've probably already been to the dark web to get some of this instruction anyhow. through a Tor or Onion browser. Again, something that is not something that the average person would have any knowledge of, nor should be really traversing without some type of expert nearby. And then you're ultimately going to be directed to your web page, which then is going to show that you have paid or not paid. If you do pay and they see that you paid, you get actually a link with an application. It then decrypts all of your information once you run it, and you're almost good to go. What they neglect to tell you is that although it will unencrypt all of the files, sometimes the files are out of sync, specifically database files such as QuickBooks, any database server file, stuff like that is prone to some corruption in this process. So you may not be even entirely up to date there, but if you can get your backups unencrypted and get those back, at least you'll have a clean slate without involving additional cost of a data expert to come in and get those things back to slate. So we're already at 6 minutes. I'm going to cut it here. If this was valuable information, please like and share with your colleagues so that we can spread the word and really educate people on the bane of IT's existence and the small business killer right now. Thank you.